Welcome to this edition of Simsbury School News. My name is Dominique Avery. We have an interesting two-part show today. First, we're going to focus on some Simsbury students and their award-winning art, and later we'll talk with one of Simsbury School administrators who's going to be changing jobs as of July 1st. As you may know, the Simsbury school system has a wonderful art program. One of the people most responsible for that is our guest today, Cindy Rehm. I thought she'd retired, but it seems that Simsbury's lucky to have her back on an interim basis. Today, she's brought along a student, Sophia Firestone. She's a junior at the high school. Sophia is one of the talented student artists who is among the 17 Simsbury artists who were selected as winners at the Connecticut Regional Scholastic Art Awards. I don't know about you, but I don't really know what that is. But welcome to you both. And Cindy, that's the first question for you.
Oh, thanks a lot. Hi, Dominique. Thank you for inviting us. And you're absolutely correct. We have a very talented art department and students. And this year we are just thrilled with the number of students that were selected for this very highly regarded, competitive exhibition. It's an authentic experience for our students. They have to go through an adjudication process, which we'll tell you more about. But the Connecticut Scholastic Art Awards, here's our brochure, and Sophia's name is in all her glories, and this brochure is sponsored by the Connecticut Art Education Association and the Scholastic Art and Writing Project, which is very national. So all states have a competition of this sort. Students who are fortunate enough to be recognized, there were 2,000 entries into this exhibit, and the exhibit size itself was slightly under 700 students chosen. Wow. The children who are fortunate enough to be selected, the students, receive an honorable mention or a silver key or a gold award, and Sophia was in that category, the highest category, and in a category which has become very outstanding for Simsbury Public Schools, the category of fashion.
So when, so we'll talk more about,
yeah,
and we have this dramatic demonstration of your art here. But when was this award? When did this whole thing happen? And is it an exhibit? Do they put all these things out? Tell me a little bit about it.
Yes, I will. It is a 2-week-long exhibit held in January. The show just came down. The show is at the Hartford Art School in the art gallery of that art school, the Taub Gallery.
Where is that?
That's on the campus of the Hartford Art School at the University of Hartford.
Okay.
Right. There's a wonderful award ceremony at the Lincoln Theater there, and a keynote speaker talks to the students, an encouraging discussion about our education and the future of the arts. The students come on stage and are recognized by various folks. There's many scholarships given, many scholarships. As a matter of fact, the Gold Key Award winners will go on to a national competition, and from that result, a pool of students who are recognized nationally will be able to apply for up to, well, there's $8 million of scholarship opportunity in that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit more about the exhibit. Perhaps parents or our viewers, is this open to the public? I mean, next year they could keep their eyes open and
absolutely
maybe go.
It's always right after we come back from the holiday vacation, right, in January. And it's yearly, and it's held at the Hartford Art School. They're wonderful, wonderful hosts for this exhibition. And the Hartford Art School itself awards many scholarships to seniors.
And that's a pretty good
They gave out $87,000 worth of scholarships of which several of our students were awarded a piece of that.
Okay, so
And
now
it
we
was-
talked about, I
Yeah.
don't mean to interrupt you, but we
No,
talked
it's
a little
okay.
bit about what a good art department Simsbury has. So you have all these talented youngsters. How do the teachers decide from all your talented students what to send or what artwork to
We
submit?
can't wait to do that process every year. It is so challenging and so much fun. So typically there are the middle school art teachers and the high school teachers, because this exhibition is secondary, middle school, high school. So we bring 6 to 10 works to the table, and we look at the work. We know what the exhibit, the criteria. We know the work needs to be well crafted, well composed, well constructed, expressive, a little bit unique, very creative. And so we have a conversation among ourselves. So for example, there's 5 art teachers at the high school. We may look at 50 works. And then we'll kind of have an adjudication process just among each other, and we'll just narrow down. We may bring in the students themselves and say to the student, there's something about that dress that, that perhaps craftsmanship somewhere needs to be improved. Would you be interested in spending a little bit more time on this piece? We'd like to
So the students don't submit. You
No,
choose from
no, no,
among the
no.
work that they've been doing the
We
previous
do, we
few
do.
months.
Yeah, frankly, this is not an effort-based competition. It's about the piece. It's really not about the students. It's juror blinded, and so each teacher only gets to submit 4 pieces, and we really, really enjoy the process. Because it feels authentic. We're all practicing artists ourselves, and we go through this process ourselves when we exhibit.
So Sophia, clearly you're interested in fashion, and I wanted to know a little bit how you got interested in fashion design.
Well, I mean, I've always been artistic. I've enjoyed drawing and clothing and drawing clothing, but I really started pursuing fashion as sort of a course when I did the fashion course at the Simsbury Art Academy.
The Summer Academy.
Yeah, the summer before my sophomore year, and I also did that the previous summer, and that's helped me explore that more.
So now, was this design something that you did in the Art Academy or something you did in class this year?
Oh, there's something I did in the Art Academy. We designed a whole collection of clothing and then chose one dress to actually create.
So we're sitting here, and I feel like we have another guest at the table.
Yeah.
What inspired you to do this? What did you have in mind when you did it?
I mean, originally the idea behind each of our collections was different architectural designs and also different color palettes. So I chose a color palette that I liked and colors that worked together. And then I looked at individual images I gathered from nature with the flowers, or things I saw in magazines that I thought looked interesting in terms of design, and then just kind of combined that in a way I liked.
And it's very full and very hoop skirty.
Yes.
Right. So how did you choose what materials to use? Do you sew as well?
Yes, I do sew. I think I started sewing just in family consumer science in 7th grade, and got a little more practice at SAA. But I knew for the top I just used fabric, just a simple design, and then I knew for the skirt I wanted it to have that kind of full effect, so I used paper instead to make it stand out more.
It's very attractive.
Thank you.
I don't know if our viewers will be able to see it. Picks the blue of, there's a picture, a photograph behind you. There is an intense blue, and it's the same blue that's on the flowers on the bodice. Are you planning on furthering sort of fashion design, studying fashion design further? Or?
Yes, I am. Next year I'm planning on taking jewelry and also AP 3D design, where you can, the focus of that class is creating 3 different portfolios, one of which is submitted for the AP test, and then I'm hoping to carry fashion design over to college.
Have you thought at all about where you'd like to go?
Yeah, I'm looking at a few different schools, mostly still in New England, but like Fashion Institute of Technology, Rhode Island School of Design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The usual suspects.
Usually.
So when you got this award, what did that mean to you? I mean,
I mean, I thought it was just really nice to be like recognized for hard work because, and like Mrs. Rehm mentioned, I put in extra work into the dress besides of what I did over the summer, and it was just like a very unique experience to be recognized for that, and it's definitely encouraged me to pursue this more.
So did they put the gold key on the dress itself, or did they hand it to you at the ceremony?
They handed it to me.
Right. That's sweet. Cindy, when a student receives an award like that, what does that mean to you? And you've seen a lot of students go through your program. Is it encouraging? Is it? I mean, I know a lot of artists don't say they don't care about being recognized in that way.
I think it's very, very, very validating for the student, and we are proud beyond proud of our students anyway, so it's very validating to us as instructors. That exhibit itself provides the instructors with such a great professional development opportunity because we go to those shows with our cameras and our sketch pads, and we look in these brochures to see which schools are performing so well, and we pick the brains of the networks of teachers that consistently are able to produce students of such high quality, and it's just beyond the student themselves. It really infiltrates into the core of our arts academic program. So there are nationally recognized people who had this journey, and this is part of a student's journey. Andy Warhol received a Scholastic Art Award in his state.
Really?
John Updike, Truman Capote, Zach Posen. And wouldn't that be cool to go and visit him in New York when we'll take the students to New York this summer and do something special in fashion with them.
So you are submitted now for a national award, right?
Yes.
And when does that happen?
Well, that'll happen. I'm not quite sure the date. They have not released that, but it'll be late spring. It'll be at Carnegie Hall. That's where the ceremony will be. The exhibition itself is usually throughout the city at Pratt Gallery, Parsons School of Design Gallery, FIT sometimes hosts some of the exhibit. So it's a great experience, and I wish everybody luck.
Okay, so
Very,
we're
very
approaching
hard.
the end of our time here, but in the time we have left, if both of you could sort of opine a little bit about how I said Simsbury has a really good art program. Am I right? Do we have a really good art program? And is it better than other schools? Is it something special that we have here? Either one of you.
Okay, I'll take it. Yeah, I honestly do think the art program is very good. I mean, in the elementary and middle schools, they do a lot, and then once you get to high school, if a student's interested in art, they can explore a lot of different paths. I mean, you have drawing, sculpture, photography, and there's all these different options. And the teachers are all very talented.
Great.
She put it in a nutshell. Sophia sure did. Yeah.
All right, I think we're going to have to call it a day here. Cindy and Sophia, I'm so pleased that you came. It was so interesting. I loved the dress. Thanks so much for joining us once again, Cindy, and I hope I see you again this summer when we can talk about your Arts Academy.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure, quick.
Yeah. The public can see all the beautiful images on our Board of Education website.
Okay. And we're going to try and show some of the
great.
photographs too.
Awesome. But I'd love for everyone to enjoy all 17 pieces.
So, I mean, this is I love it when we have students who come. I love to showcase their work during the show. We're going to take a short break. Don't go away, because we're going to try and show some photographs of other students' work. And when we come back, we're going to talk with the Simsbury administrator about her upcoming job change. Don't go away. We're back. Joining me now is Sue Lemke, whose current school title is Assistant Superintendent of Administration and Human Resource Development, a mouthful. Her new title will be Assistant Superintendent of Pupil Services, which involves the leadership of special education services as well as health services for the entire district. Sue, thank you for coming back.
Thanks for having me,
Enjoyed
Dominique.
having you several times, I believe.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what made you apply for this job and what you bring to it? I know a little bit about your biography, and it sounds to me like you're perfect for it. But why don't you tell our audience?
No, absolutely. In my current role as Assistant Superintendent for Administration and Human Resources, a major part of that is hiring of major district positions, and certainly the special services at the retirement of Helen Donaher at the end of this year was one such position. So it's very customary for myself and Matt Curtis, the superintendent, to go out and do forums, forums with faculty, forums with parents, if appropriate with students, to hear about what they're looking for, characteristics of their next leader in whatever position for which we're looking. And when we did that, we started to talk to staff, certainly talk with parents, and we were hearing some different themes of what they were looking for. And I kind of looked at Matt kind of looked at me, and we just knew that it would be a natural match. It wasn't something that I was initially seeking, certainly, but then it just became very clear that this was a great match for Simsbury, a great match for me personally and professionally, and getting back to some of the great work and certainly my roots in special education.
Okay, so tell, I know that we discussed it the first time I interviewed you, your background, but let's review it again. You were a special education teacher.
I was a special education teacher in the northwest corner of the state, predominantly with middle school and high school students, predominantly with students who struggled with some certain emotional needs. And that's where my passion really developed. And I also worked in a therapeutic camp through the YMCA in the northwest corner, and that's really where my roots began to develop in special education at both of those placements. And it just was deep in my heart of making sure that students with special needs, however they were defined, were held to the high expectations that I would have for all students, and just managing the pathways with them so that they could succeed and be successful and realize their full potential. So from there, after not only that position as a special educator, but I also co-facilitated an alternative special education program in the afternoons. And again, just loved that work before I got into regular administration at a middle school, high school, and then 10 years ago here in Simsbury.
So you were principal of Henry James, right?
I was. I have been in this current role. This is my third year, but prior to that, I was the principal of Henry James for 5 years. It was fantastic. And prior to that, 2 years as assistant principal at Simsbury High School.
So special education, there's a lot of things that we can talk about it, but
Absolutely.
It's sort of a double-edged sword for Simsbury, it seems to me, because Simsbury has a reputation as a very good school system for children who need special education, and that is it's wonderful for the system, but it's also sort of a burden given the high costs of special education. How do you look at that issue?
Well, I always look at the issue kids first, and Simsbury Public Schools are known for their high quality programs, special ed and regular education. And again, how do we make those pathways accessible for all of our students in Simsbury? Certainly I'm very proud of the special education services that we offer. Some do come with a cost, but we need to be effective but also efficient, but make sure that we're keeping the student at the center of those decisions. So certainly a double-edged sword in the fact that we have to pay attention to both, but it can definitely be done, and I think we do it extremely well here in Simsbury.
So now that you're going to be in a sort of a different leadership role, are there things that you have heard from the parents of children involved in special education that you want to change, that you are going to be more sensitive to, or can you offer us a little bit of an idea of what?
No, absolutely. Certainly we had the parent forum, and we would get a slice of parent feedback regarding how happy they are with services, where they see the strengths, and where they would like to see some of the changes. I think I'm going to do a lot of reach out, certainly in the spring leading up to the transition of my role in July 1st, but also throughout the summer, and to do a lot more listening to what the needs are. Certainly, I think we can do better with communication overall. So that is going to be a huge focus for us. And I think this is when you always have a change of leadership, it's great to have the opportunity to, in a sense, come back to the basics. What is our philosophy and what is our mission specific to special education in the district? And what do we want our services, our spectrum of services to represent? And how do we represent excellence through what we do in special education? So I think some kind of ground, from the roots collaboration with parents, with teachers, listening to students, and really formulating what that is. Because when there are rocky times, and there are rocky times in special education, we can go back to those foundational beliefs of what we believe excellence is all about. So certainly that. But I do come back to communication. I think clear communication, consistent communication, but also communication that's proactive. I think that there a lot of times may be resources that are available out there that I would want to be able to share with parents and faculty members proactively. I would also want to make sure that we have consistent voices that we're listening to around how we can continuously make improvements to what we offer, because it's a very broad spectrum, special education, from preschool to actually post high school up to age 21. So there's a lot of different components, I think, but it's very important to remember that we need to keep the individual at the basis of all of our decisions.
The area of special education is, I think you already touched on this, but it's a very sensitive area, and it can involve a lot of angry parents. And I think you're right. I think communication is really important, because parents, when they feel like they're not being heard, I worked at the Capitol for many years, and every time special education issues came up, there were parents who were just so angry at their school systems because they were fighting them on services. Does that kind of thing happen here?
I know that there are times where we may not see eye to eye on a certain issue involving a student with special needs, and that's where I always go to faculty. Okay, let's stop. Let's take a breath, and with parents too, because at the end of the day, we actually do want the same thing, and that's what's best for your child and for our student. And that, going back to that and kind of reminding ourselves of that, certainly kind of makes us all take a step back and kind of refocus on what we need to refocus on. The other thing is when someone does get angry, whether it's a parent or someone else, regarding any topic, not just special services, it's to, again, pause and say, why? What is behind that? Is it because they feel like they have to advocate and no one is listening? Are they feeling like they don't have information that would be helpful? Are they seeing something at home that maybe we are not seeing the same way at school? So it's kind of it's certainly building that trust from the beginning, remembering that we are here for the same reason, and then moving forward in those difficult situations. Because people are passionate. They're passionate about their kids. Right. They're passionate about the education that their children receive, and they should be.
So for a person who has no knowledge at all about what this means, how does the school system recognize a child who needs special services?
There's a variety of steps that one takes before a student is identified needing special education. Certainly there might be a difficulty. There might be it's an impact on learning is really what we're looking for. So we start off with low-level interventions that are not necessarily special education interventions. They're regular ed interventions, but different things to help alleviate whatever the issue might be. If those interventions don't work, then we can either suggest, or a parent can suggest, referrals to special education. That can consist of a variety of assessments that we might look at, again, specific specific to what the actual issue or concern might be. And then we come to the table and we look at the data and we say, what do these assessment results tell us? Is there an indication of a disability? Is there an indication that a student needs specialized and individualized education services? And if the answer is yes, again, I'm really truncating the process here, but those are the basic questions that we're asking. Then we might determine that the student is identified with a special need. What is that, and what is it that the student needs in order to access the general education curriculum to the greatest extent possible?
Now, what happens when a family decides to move to Simsbury because they've heard special education is so good and they want to access it here? Do they come to the administration first? How does that happen?
No, we certainly, we have our typical registration process, and part of that is ascertaining whether a student has what's called an IEP, or an individualized education plan, with an identified special need. And if so, then they are put in direct contact with the special education office. And then what we do, if it's from another district, that IEP from that district stays into play. And then we get to learn about the student. We get to know him or her very, very well. We might suggest certain assessments of our own, and then we come back to the table and we do an analysis of, is there anything that we need to change, tweak, modify, and we provide those services accordingly.
We have less than a minute. How often do you find that other school systems have not done a very good assessment job? Are you aware of that?
I wouldn't put that on other schools. I would just say that I'm very proud of what we do here in Simsbury. And again, sometimes it's, the development of a student. Sometimes we might see something a different way that would cause us to, look deeper into a situation, but again, it's always coming back to, what does that student need and how can we provide it so they can have access to the high quality education we provide here in Simsbury.
We could talk about this a lot longer.
We could.
We
have
have
me
run
back
out of time.
anytime.
Okay, we've run out of time. I'd like to thank everyone here at SCTV behind the scenes for their help in getting the show on the air. Thanks especially to my guests, Sue Lemke, thank you. Cindy Rehm and Sophia Firestone. And finally, thank you for joining us. If you missed any portion of the show, you can find it on our website at simsburytv.org, where you can also get updates on new shows and the show's schedules for all our channels, Comcast 5, 95, and 96, and Frontier's UVerse Channel 99. You can also like us on Facebook, and I really wish you would. I'm Dominique Avery. See you next time for the Simsbury School News.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.